Dynasty Evaluation Show, Week 2 review, Week 3 look ahead. We are here to talk to you about your fantasy football teams, how they did, how the NFL teams did, and what to look forward to in Week 3 as we go. So get ready for a show. Man, I had a good morning this morning. Got to go out to eat with my mom, my brother. We had some breakfast food, had the exterminator over. I had all kind of stuff going on, but busy day, busy Thursday night football tonight, Thursday. A lot of beers going down. I'm off work tomorrow, so that means I can watch the game over again 3 times with all my buddies in the garage till about 4 in the morning, like every normal person does, right? So we'll do that. JT, how's your day going?
Not too bad. It's homecoming week at my high school, and we had a parade for my 5th grade football team. All the local kids teams and high school teams, everybody get together and they do a homecoming parade. Have to say, not sure I'm going to volunteer to do that again. It was about 2.5 hours of kids just screaming the entire time in my ears. I was like, I had such a headache by the time I was done. Kids had fun. They were throwing candy to everybody in the parade and having a good time. But I felt like I said sit down about 8,000 times in an hour's span because I didn't want these kids falling off of the trailer as we're driving around. They keep trying to get up and jumping down. But yeah, the kids had a good time. They had fun, so I guess that's all that really matters.
It's all about the kids, JT. It's all about the kids. It's I miss the days of when we were younger, like, the things our parents used to do for us and then all the things we did for our kids. But I remember having these big, huge paper mache, like giants and, bears and things like that. All kids did. Now it's just kind of drive around or the kids walk behind the thing at the parade.
Oh, yeah. Nobody does the huge float. I remember when I was in high school, they had a committee and we would spend like literally weeks like building our float and everything. Now they just basically, you just sit on the back of a truck or get a trailer and you have everybody just kind of hang out on there. They don't spend the time doing that. We had a bunch of the moms did a really nice thing and put all the kids' names and numbers on signs, and we hung up signs all the way around the back end of the trailer. But we didn't do any of those crazy big paper mache float things that they used to do back in the day.
Well, back in the day, which was last week, we had a bunch of NFL games. So let's get to where to go game by game and just kind of review what happened last week. We'll try and get through them, and then we'll talk about next week's games, what we think is going to happen after the aftermath of what happened last week's game. So we'll go through. First game last week was the Thursday night game between Buffalo and Miami. These are my old favorite team, my Dan Marino led Miami Dolphins, and now my Josh Allen led Buffalo Bills. I've kind of converted. There's always be a spot in my heart for the Dolphins, especially see them in the old school uniforms. It was like I was really hard.
So pretty, dude. They were so pretty. That was my favorite part of the game. Was the Dolphins old school unis. Man, I used to have a Mark Clayton jersey like that when I was a kid, 83, with the nice thick orange outline on the white numbers on that nice that deep aqua green. Mm-hmm. Dude, they were so pretty. I was watching, I was like, man, these are the unis, dude. They're so much better than their new ones. I love those old school unis. They're so cool.
Part of the reason I can't root for the Dolphins anymore is those stupid uniforms they have now. It's like, dude, man, it's like you had a perfect uniform. It was absolutely awesome, and you blew it by this whatever.
They're like super teal now, and there's like almost no orange on them. Yeah. And they changed the dolphin on the helmet where the dolphin doesn't have the helmet anymore.
Yeah,
which was kind of ridiculous, a dolphin with a helmet, but it's kind of freaking cool as well. So yeah, man, I'm all in on the old unis. So much better.
Absolutely. So anyway, in this game, Josh Allen didn't have to do much, man. These are the games that you, and for a fantasy football guy who has Josh Allen and traded up, pretty much traded my life away to get Josh Allen in almost every league I'm in. I was, these games when Josh Allen scores about anywhere between 8 to 12 fantasy points, depending on your scoring system is concerned, really kind of hurt. This was the James Cook game. 11 carries, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. James Cook had a couple of these games last year, which if you're winning that way against division rivals, why not just keep your foot on the pedal and just keep going? I understand what they were doing here. They understood the assignment. They got it done. It wasn't much as far as receiving Khalil Shakir had a couple catches, but Keon Coleman got skunked on your bench. Curtis Samuel had 1 for 2 for 3 yards. Man, it was just a bad for across the board. Even Kincaid only had 33 yards on 4 receptions. So it was. JT, what do you think when you watch this game?
I had a ton of guys going in fantasy and combined in this game, and these are the ones where you're like, "Ooh, Monday night." Or sorry, Thursday night, you're like, "Oh, hope we get a nice little cushion in the league." And then you're like, "Oh, dude, I'm playing from way behind." I got smoked. I had Josh Allen in a ton of leagues, 139 with 1 passing touchdown, 2 yards rushing, 2. No TDs. Yeah, he murdered you. If you had bets out there, he murdered your bets. Yeah, it was James Cook. This is one of the ones I was like texting my friends, and I'm like, God, these are the days I hate that I faded James Cook and don't have any James Cook. I'm like, God, he looked great. About the only good thing for me, and it didn't really help fantasy wise, but betting wise, is I took Ray Davis over 25 rushing yards at plus 425, and he got 29. That was the only good thing that happened in the entire game, because I got crushed. I have so much Tua. We've talked about it a million times how much you don't like Tua. I've got a ton of Tua. I bought up a bunch more when he had the concussion problems beforehand 2 seasons ago, and everybody was trying to get rid of him. Problem is, when you got Tua and you got the likes of T. Hill and Waddle, and they're tied to Tua, it makes it that much worse. And I've got a lot of Tyreek Hill and I've got a lot of Waddle, and it wasn't pretty. Tua went down. The team got ugly. 3 picks out of Tua. Devin Achane, the only guy that did anything for you with the 96 yards rushing, which was 22 carries. Jeez.
Yeah.
That was nice if you're a fantasy manager. I'd like to see him get 22 carries, but you also hope he doesn't get hurt getting that many carries. Also, 7 catches for 69 and a touchdown. So Devin Achane looked freaking fantastic for you. But Waddle 4 for 41 and Tyreek 3 for 24. Not a good one. And now I got Tua on the IR. I didn't have Skylar Thompson in a lot of situations, so that one sucks for me. This game just was brutal all around, and we're going to have to get scary on what we do with our Dolphins players moving forward, and I'm really debating who I'm going to play. If I've got any better options, I'm almost going anyone else that isn't Devin Achane.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. They're gonna. Matt Waldman had Skylar Thompson as his quarterback 1 in his class, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, people, it's not the end of the world as far as that goes. The things that are happening, but I'd much rather, even though I'm not a Tua fan, he knows these quarterbacks. You can see Tua has these. He knows where to hit the guys on the certain runs. If you watch a highlight film for the Dolphins, almost every play, the ball is delivered in the center of the field to somebody across the board. It's either on the sidelines on a long throw or a cross or a post or a flag or something like that. It's the same. I know there's a skinny post that he runs a Waddle all the time, and it's like, dude, like, how do they not? If they look for the zone coverage, and then bam, it's open all the time. And he does fit in the pretty tight windows. The defense knows it's coming. Waddle knows it's coming. Tua knew it's coming, and he still completes the pass because he's got pretty good accuracy. But man, and those receivers just make Tua look like an absolute stud. So
yeah, the early pass, the first interception, for anyone who didn't see it, he threw it to DeBose and it hit him right on the money in the shoulder pad, and he wasn't looking, and it bounced up and got picked. And from that point on, it just looked like the Bills have owned the Dolphins. They've just absolutely owned them like the last 10 or 12 games. It's like the Dolphins were like, okay, this is going to finally be our chance. And the second a couple of those things went bad early on, you could just see it. The Bills' confidence just kept growing and growing, and the Dolphins just kept looking like, oh no, here we go again. And it's like that momentum and that mental side of the game is absolutely for real. And once I saw that turnover after a good start on the drive and then bounced right off his pad, I had the Dolphins -2.5. I immediately was like, that was a bad bet. That was a bad bet. I'm like, the Bills are going to end up winning this thing again because they're just going to get it done. And of course, they got it done, and they didn't need a monster performance out of Josh Allen, which is a rarity these days. Usually, if he doesn't have a huge game, they don't win. But like you said, James Cook, just an absolute beast, took care of things for him.
The best thing that could have happened here is it ended up being a night game when it would have been a day game in Miami and the hot sun at Buffalo. They don't play very well. Remember last year's game, people were passing out all over the place. Like it was people were dying to just get on the field. So this being a night game where they didn't have to deal with the sunlight, it's a huge advantage. Now when they play again, Miami's got to go to Buffalo, later in the season, and it's the advantage, the home field advantage for Miami is now gone from this contest, especially no quarterback now, possibly for the year. We'll see what happens with that. But what do you think? Should we jump to see what who's Buffalo's next opponent next week? Let's see.
Yeah, so Bill's coming up here. So if we want to just kind of look ahead, they're playing the Monday night
Jaguars.
game. Yeah, they're playing the Jags on Monday. There's 2 Monday nighters, so put that on your calendar, people. 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central is the first game, and then the next game 7:15. I'm not sure why they do that 45 minute difference. I'm like, just start the second game at halftime of the first game, that does blows my mind. But yes, they're at home against the Jags. The Jags, we'll talk a little bit about their game. They have not looked great so far. The Bills, I mean, you're back on Josh Allen. You're not avoiding Josh Allen, even though the last game, people have moved the ball pretty well against the Jags so far. Obviously, James Cook at this point is a must play every week. The wide receivers, I don't know. I don't know right now. Who do you play? Kincaid, it was a guy everybody thought would be huge right now. 5 catches, 44 on the season. Coleman, the rookie, I like him. Only 4 for 51. And as you said, nothing last week. Shakur seems to be kind of the guy right now. 8 for 96 and a touch so far this year. But he's done a pretty good job, Josh Allen has, of spreading it around, which is nice in real life, but bad for fantasy purposes.
This is starting to be
I think I'm confident in going Allen, Cook, and Shakur. If I have Shakur, Coleman for me is going to be depending on who else is on my team. And I'm not giving up on Kincaid yet. I mean, if you have Kincaid, you probably spent pretty solid to get him. So I probably am playing Kincaid unless I've got another option at tight end.
This is starting to be almost like the Chiefs kind of thing, where in the past where it's, but not even the Chiefs, I guess. I don't know because they always had Kelsey, but there's not one stud on this team. The only stud you can really take is Josh Allen here. James Cook, when he has his games, but when he doesn't, he's not out of the picture, but he's not going to have a week like he had last week every week for sure. He had like a 2 or 3 week stint last season where he did real good, but other than that, he disappeared for a couple games too. I could see, Coleman. I could see Coleman being a leading scorer this week because Jacksonville just. We'll talk about Jacksonville later, like you said, but Jacksonville has a rough start to the schedule, man. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, like they said, they had he had more points than Dak Prescott and Aaron Rodgers already this season, but that's they're just playing some tough opponents, and Buffalo is not the answer to their problems right now. So, but I'm going to be a little more confident in the passing game here, and like you said, Kincaid, Coleman, I'm going to lead on those guys more than I am for sure, James Cook. So, and then the Dolphins, they have. They're playing Seattle, which Seattle's been playing some pretty good football lately. Geno Smith's looked a lot better than I thought. But
and we finally got a JSN week, right? JSN, everybody's been waiting for him to blow up. He finally did last week. A really nice game, double-digit catches, over 100 yards. So that's exciting if you got a lot of shares of JSN right now.
So you got Skylar Thompson as the quarterback here, Devin A-Chain. I'm not sure he's going to have these 22, 23, 24 carry games all season long, or else you're going to see the Jalen Wright show before the end of the season for sure, because I'm not sure A-Chain can carry the load. But, I mean, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, those guys can make anything. They can make a screen pass turn into a 95-yard touchdown in a heartbeat. So, Darnell Smythe, Jonnu Smith, at this point in time, they might be used a little bit more because of the fact that a quarterback needs to dump off to the receivers. But, man, I don't know the direction of this team with Skylar Thompson. I do think Skylar Thompson's a little bit underrated. I wouldn't just turn my back and say, okay, the Dolphins season's over with. He's a decent quarterback. He's okay. He's been here. This has been on his team for a couple of years now, so he knows the system.
I mean, he beat out Mike White for the backup job, so it's not like they didn't like him. They obviously liked him because they kept him over Mike White. I don't think Skylar Thompson's terrible, but it definitely puts a damper for me on all the wide receivers. I think if you got Tyreek, you probably still got to play him because, again, he makes plays. So it's like you just got to get him the ball in his hands. So it's not like you have to have the quarterback, do something crazy to get the ball to him. It does hurt Waddle for me personally. I love Seattle in this game, though. I mean, at home, a reeling Dolphins team. To me, this is a perfect spot for Seattle to light it up. And we're still waiting on the Kenny Walker news. It's looking like he's probably going to sit out again this week. Obviously, they gave Charbonnet some carries last week, but Geno Smith, 44 pass attempts, 327 yards and a touchdown. He was lighting it up. DK Metcalf, 10 for 129 and a touch. JSN, 12 for 117. I mean, both of those guys were rocking and rolling. Our guy Noah Fant, 1 for 14, still hurting, still looking for something from him. And 2 out of 15 for Lockett, who had a pretty nice week one, little quieter last week with JSN in the lineup. I actually was talking with one of my buddies in a super flex league where you only get 4 points per touchdown pass. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to play JSN over Daniel Jones in our super flex spot. We have a good wide receiver crew, and I don't love Daniel Jones and what the Giants are doing. And after that game last week, I kind of like JSN to keep it rolling. So I think I'm going to play him over Daniel Jones, which I know is usually, just crazy talk in a super flex league, not starting a QB in your flex spot. But I think we're maybe gonna do it this week.
Yeah, it's not a bad plan. Next game was the Vegas played the Baltimore Ravens, which I don't think anybody figured the Ravens would be 0-2 and Vegas would be 1-1 right now. Maybe I guess the 1-1 Vegas wasn't too big of a shock, but they have some decent players. But to beat Baltimore, that was I was thinking this is going to be the Derrick Henry show, and he did have 18 carries for 84 yards and a touchdown. But as soon as they scored, I'm like, all right, cool. This is great. They're just going to run the table, and somehow, some way, I'm not sure how Vegas won, but I'll take it, I guess.
They pulled it out. I tell you what, John, I'm in a couple Survivor leagues. A couple of them are already over. Like, no joke. 2 weeks into the NFL season, they're over. Everyone I have one league over 30 guys in the pool. Everyone had the Bengals in week 1, and then everyone else had the Ravens or Eagles in week 2.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Like, everybody's out. I mean, it's crazy. 2 weeks in. I'm in a double elimination Survivor pool. I'm already out. I took Bengals week 1, and I took Ravens week 2. I cannot believe the Ravens blew this game at home. I mean, even losing at Vegas, I would have thought would have been a little bit of a shocker, but losing this one at home, man, what are the Ravens doing? They got a tough schedule too, so losing this one was one they needed. And we just got Lamar, 247, a touchdown and a pick. Gave us 45 rushing, solid game, but no touchdown. Like you said, Derrick Henry, 84 and a touch, was good. Zay Flowers showed up, 7 for 91 and a touch. But then Isaiah Likely was the guy that everybody was on after last week, 2 for 26, and Mark Andrews 4 for 51. That looks like that's going to be a split now the rest of the year, I would assume. But man, what a tough start for the Ravens. 0-2, a little bit of a shocker. And then the dude, Minshew Mania, the guy just gets it done. 276, a touchdown and a pick for him. Their running game is awful. I just don't understand how they're getting it done because their running game is so bad. Zamir White, 9 for 24. Yeah. He is not looking good. But hey, man, Brock Bowers, my boy. I love Brock Bowers. 9 targets, 9 receptions, 98 yards. I like where he's headed after 2 weeks, getting into the mix. And then obviously everybody that has Devontae Adams was pumped to see him get 12 targets, 9 for 110 and a touch for him. Yeah, this is one of those games I went back and I started watching, and I was like, I'm going to have to go back and rewatch that game because I wasn't paying real close attention to it when it was actually on. Man, it just was one of those games you're just like, why are the Raiders sticking around here? And they just kind of did. And then, boom, they got it done. I mean, four field goals from Daniel Carlson. I tell you what, for those people that are in high field goal kicker scoring leagues, so far the first 2 weeks, man, is the year of the kicker. If you're playing some of these kickers are doing great. So for all those leagues that are like, kickers suck, get them out, and they don't have kickers anymore. Man, I'm in a few leagues with kickers still, and the kickers are scoring crazy points so far this year. But man, crazy. So Raiders were down 23-13 at the very beginning of the fourth quarter. Scored 13 unanswered to get it done. So I've said it a million times. This is why the NFL is what it is, man. The drama, the fact that these games that you never see coming, and on a betting perspective, it's awful. I mean, I'm getting crushed. But entertainment wise, it's phenomenal. We're getting
Absolutely.
all kinds of good games to start the year, especially games that we thought were probably going to be bad are actually real competitive. So as far as that, the fun factor, the entertainment factor is there.
Yeah, this was a game that I didn't see coming for sure. I'm not a big fan of Gardner Minshew, but he made some things happen. He got the ball to Devontae Adams, and he got the ball to Brock Bowers. And I can't believe how good Brock Bowers is from the get-go. I knew he was good. I traded like number 7 pick, number 8 pick, and a bunch of drafts to get Brock Bowers when in big time tight end premium drafts. And I'm reaping the rewards for that right now. So
yeah, and the one thing I've always said about Minshew, love or hate him, he turns the ball over at some bad times and he kills you there. But he will force feed his studs.
Yes.
He will force them the ball. That's why I was all over Bowers this year. And I told people I wasn't worried if he won the starting job with Devontae Adams because I was like, he's the type of guy, he makes sure his guys get the ball. And even if it's to the detriment of the team in the long run, for fantasy purposes, it's fantastic.
I'm kind of surprised that Trey Tucker's only seen a couple. I was expecting a little bit more from him this year.
I thought he would be a little more in the mix. The start of the year. We'll see. I'm not totally out on him. Obviously, most people, unless you're in a deep league, you're not playing Trey Tucker anyway. Right now, he's at the end of your bench. I was kind of interested to see if he would steal a little of Jacoby Myers' thunder. And so far, neither one of them are doing much because it's pretty much been the Adams and Bowers show so far.
Yeah. All right, we're going to jump to the next game, Chargers and Carolina Panthers. Herbert, 14 for 20, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. I don't Bryce Young is yanked. Like this game was just crap show across the board. So I don't know there's no other way to explain it. J.K. Dobbins looks like an absolute stud out of nowhere. I had a chance to trade for him. We talked about that last week. If you didn't get J.K. Dobbins before, you're not getting him now unless somebody wants to try and sell high. But either way, you're paying for him. It is what it is. So Gus Edwards was a big pickup over the offseason. He's still at 18 carries in this game.
18 freaking carries, only 59 yards. But, I mean, how Jim Harbaugh is this Chargers team?
Right. So it's
35 freaking carries between Dobbins and Edwards. Like, are you serious? And they got the third stringer Haskins 3 carries on top of Herbert getting 6 carries. I mean, this team is just going to pound the rock as much as they can. And this is the perfect situation. You're playing a terrible Carolina team who now I think has to officially be considered the dumpster's fire of the NFL. Carolina is terrible. Absolutely. And then this team now already benching Bryce Young, your number 1 pick you just traded up for. Holy crap, man. For Andy Dalton, it's not even like you have like another young guy that like you're like, oh, let's kind of see what he can do. You're putting in Andy Dalton. Like, come on, man. Like,
well, Bryce Young's getting Josh Rosen at this point in time. They're going to pick another quarterback in next year's draft. Bryce Young is just not seeing the field. He's not seeing anything. He's not, I'm not even sure Andy Dalton's going to be able to fix this team, but at least Andy Dalton's going to get the ball to Deontay Johnson a couple more than, 3 receptions for 15 yards. Like, I mean, Deontay Johnson's been known to get wide open across the board.
Yeah, I would not be shocked to see Deontay Johnson moved before this year's out. He's going to end up getting real pissed, and he's going to be a problem in the locker room, and they're going to be like, dude, I think he's only got a year left on his deal. I think they'll end up moving him if they can get anything for him. But yeah, this team is a mess. I like Canales, the coach, but like, I don't understand if this is coming from the owner's box to make this move. I mean, unless you have some long-term plan where you're like, guys, we're so terrible, I don't want to crush this kid. Let's get him out for a little while and tell him like that's what we're doing. But it doesn't seem like a very good plan right now. 2 games into his second season. Oh man, I was not a fan of this team going into the year. I thought they would be probably the worst team, and they are absolutely the worst team in the league.
Absolutely the worst team. The big question here is Quentin Johnson for real, or was this just a 5 for 6, 51 yards, 2 touchdowns?
I tell you what, I've not been a huge Quentin Johnson guy. I've said that from the beginning. I didn't really like him coming out. He was not one of my guys I would have picked. I think me and you had him in a C2C league. Yeah. And I think that was the only league that I had him in. I went and picked him up off waivers in a couple dynasty drafts this offseason. Like a couple people dropped him. Yeah, a couple people actually dropped him. And then there was another league I was in that had a dispersal draft, and he was in the dispersal draft, and I got him like 12th round of the dispersal draft. It was crazy. I was like, I'll take him, and my team's not good. So I was like, he's playable on my team if he does anything. Well, I'm playing him every week now on that team. But 2 touchdowns, you're not going to get that every week. 5 for 51. He got 6 targets, led the team in targets. So that's the thing you really kind of want to see here is he getting targets? And if he's getting targets, is he catching the ball? Herbert's a good quarterback, man. He's not going to have the fancy stats this year. We've said it before, just with the way this team is going to play. But he's a solid QB, and he can put the ball in there. I still am not in love with Quentin Johnson, but I think he's a playable guy. He's decent, man. So I think if you need like a deep flex play, I think you could do worse than him this year, at least for now.
I was just trying to find the trade. I traded for Quentin Johnson. So I can't find it, but I did a pretty decent trade to acquire Quentin Johnson. I don't think there's anything crazy. I'll find it and I'll let you guys know. But it was one of those things where I just figured, hey, man, if somebody's just looking to dump right away, just on a quick dump, which I didn't give anything really of substance for crazy picks or no picks at all, just some players that I thought were kind of, possibly towards the end of their career anyway, and the wish casting guys might as well take a shot at Quentin Johnson. You never know. Like I said, some people just pick up the offense sometimes. It's just how things work. If the light went on for Quentin Johnson, all of a sudden now he's just going to learn how. This is all I got to do. Or Jim Harbaugh, they're going to use him correctly. Then it's this is the perfect time to pick him up. But you bought him low. Congratulations. The other guy played himself.
And the other guys you got to look at fantasy wise is Ladd McConkey. Decent start for him. I mean, he had 5 catches for 39 and a touch week 1, only 2 for 26 this last week. I just think you're going to get that with him. I just don't think the Chargers are going to throw a lot, so it's going to be hit and miss with him. The guy that I'm shocked at that, I kind of tried to buy low a little bit on this offseason was Josh Palmer. He's already got an elbow injury. He, a guy that's been consistently hurt in his career. I haven't seen any updates this week, whether this is like a serious elbow injury or something that's just kind of going to be nagging, but 2 for 15 in week 1 and 2 for 19 in week 2. And usually he's the kind of deep threat guy. So I'm definitely worried. If I got Josh Palmer, I cannot put him in my lineup anymore until I see something different out of him.
I traded late thirds in about 3 leagues for Josh Palmer this week, which I thought,
which I thought would have been to me that I like that move. I would have done that move too.
Yeah, so I don't care if it's not a big deal. I think just because Josh Palmer's having a couple big games and he's hurt a little bit doesn't mean he's not going to pick it up down the side. It was just happened to be the Quentin Johnson game this week, so we'll see what happens going forward. But that's I still got my hopes up a little bit. Let's jump to the Dallas New Orleans game. I don't know anybody saw this coming at all. We're talking about crazy weeks, man. This was the Derek Carr is on fire. Derek Carr is, if the league was to vote for MVP right now, Derek Carr would probably win it. It's unbelievable what he's doing with this team. And a lot of that had to do with dumping it off to Alvin Kamara. That helps a little bit when your running back has 3 touchdowns rushing on 20 carries and a long receiving touchdown too. Alvin Kamara is ridiculous. Everything just kind of worked for these guys. This starting off the game with a long touchdown on Rashid Shaheed kind of gets the blood flowing for the team. Then you're putting the other team's defense on blast, and the offense is already trying to play catch up. Chris Olave, another not crazy, only 81 yards, but that's going to change at some point in time when it becomes a Chris Olave, when everything's on board. Chris Olave is going to be a fantasy stud. So do not get rid of him. Do not trade him for peanuts. Do not get him off your roster. If anybody else, if you see, send trades out for guys like Chris Olave right now because he had a decent game. You were expecting so much more, especially after week 1 with getting skunked. And it's still not having the same fantasy stats as Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed is not the number 1 in this offense. Okay, just take your time.
He's looked great, but he's getting the deep balls right now, right? When things start getting a little tight in some of these games where they're not blowing people out, which they're not going to blow people out all year, you're going to see a lot more Carr looking for Olave. Right now everything is clicking for the Saints. I mean, every deep ball he throws to Shaheed seems to be hitting.
In stride, at the 5-yard line, right in his hands, burning the DB. Yeah, it's good vision by Derek Carr, but yeah, and then Kamara opened up the field where you got to. It's when you're up by 4 touchdowns. It's hey man, you can do whatever you want.
Everything looks a whole lot easier when you're winning. I mean, you're getting 200 yards and 5 touchdowns out of Kamara. He's got 300 all-purpose yards and 5 touchdowns in 2 games. So, I mean, that is the Alvin Kamara of old. And again, I like Derek Carr. He's off to a great start. He is only averaging 221 passing yards a game. It's just like we said, everything's hitting for him. He's 30 of 39. He's got 443 yards and 5 touchdowns, just 1 pick. But John, I said this on Fantasy and Frames last night. We were talking on the Dynasty 465 show. If you had the lottery ticket of Seattle, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, and New Orleans being the 4 undefeateds 2 weeks in to the NFL season, like there is no freaking way anyone would have taken it. No one would have said, "Oh, of course, New Orleans, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Seattle are going to be 2-0." That's how wild the NFL is right now. That's our 4 undefeateds in the NFC. I think we're in for a crazy season this year. I think the NFC is. I thought it was kind of wide open. I really liked the Niners, and past the Niners, I was like, I think the Eagles are good, but I don't know if I trust their coaches. I don't know if I trust their defense. And then everybody after that was like, you can make cases for them or against them. I think this NFC is freaking wide open. And then the other problem is I think the AFC is really tough. Like we kind of talked about they would be. And there's just going to be a lot of teams scrapping to try to make the playoffs at 500 or just under 500 because they're just going to beat each other up. I mean, we already got the Bengals and the Ravens are both 0-2. We've already got, Kansas City is probably the one team everybody thought would be 2-0 right now. Them and probably the Bills are both 2-0, which we would have expected. But, I mean, you're already seeing Miami with the issues. Denver does not look great. I don't think that would have thought the Chargers. I think they're kind of a smoke show at 2-0 right now. But you got the Steelers at 2-0. A bunch of people had them finishing last in their division. They're already 2-0. And they got the Chargers this week. So it's real interesting. And then I think the AFC South is going to be really competitive. But right now, Houston looks like they're running away with it 2-0. Everybody else is 0-2. But Houston's got a tough schedule upcoming. I think some teams are going to crawl their way back into that division.
Yeah, there's no way this keeps up. But hey. I who would have thought it would have been this far already? Exactly like you said. So, Dallas? I mean, where does Dallas? Where do they go from here?
The question for Dallas, and this is kind of what we were coming into the season. Everybody kind of thought they're like, okay, this team should be able to put up points. How good really is their defense? And are they going to get in trouble if they get out there and they're just having to throw constantly because they have no run game? Well, we're seeing a little bit of the bad side of that. I think their defense is better than they've shown. New Orleans is, like I said, is just somehow everything is going their way. They're hitting on all cylinders. Dak has got to play better. 293 and a touch with 2 picks last week. He's got to not turn the ball over. This team just can't do that. I think the Saints defense is highly underrated. I actually think they're way better than people gave them credit for coming into the year. I thought they would keep them in that division, but their offense is just playing way better than people thought. Something's going to happen on this team. I mean, it can't just be Dak to CeeDee Lamb. And if it is just Dak to CeeDee Lamb, great for your fantasy team, but the bad news for the Cowboys for the long run this season if that's the only 2 guys they can get going.
Well, especially after a whole year of just nothing but Dak to CeeDee Lamb and people knowing what's coming this year, that's not going to happen anymore. So that's not
the one bright spot, and it's more of a bright spot for me and you than anyone else. Our guy Jalen Tolbert, we told everybody to pick up last offseason if he was on your waiver wire before the season started. Nice little game 2 for him. 6 catches, 82 yards, 9 targets after only 1 catch for 12 yards in the opener. Jalen Tolbert might be sneaking into a couple of my deep dynasty leagues if he keeps getting 9 targets a game.
I traded him to Pat Fitzmaurice for like a 4th-round pick. I had him all over the place. I'm like,
oh, you
that's just not
traded
gonna
him
happen.
away?
Oh, in like 3 leagues, man. I'm an idiot.
I was gonna say me and you were like I felt like fighting each other out for him in certain leagues, and then we were trying to buy him up everywhere. I know every team I had that was out of it last year, I went and picked him up off the waiver wires before the playoffs got there and before there was no more pickups.
I traded away to get Eric All in a big time tight end premium league. So that was kind of, I'm like, all right, well,
I don't mind that trade. I don't mind that trade.
Anyway, here's I traded away Deontay Johnson, who I wasn't going to sit the whole season and watch Deontay Johnson just fade away, and Gabe Davis, and I got Quentin Johnson. That was the trade that I made. So, and that might cook me. I don't know. I don't trust Gabe Davis at all. I really don't care for his 3 receptions for 40 yards a game kind of thing. And Deontay, like I said, if he was going to sit behind a shit quarterback all season long, I might as well just try the upside of Quentin Johnson. So I don't know. It was 50-50 kind of like this an idiot trade, or wow, this could be something great. I don't know. It was worth the trade for me. So it is what it is.
I mean, this Cowboys-Ravens game, everybody thought it was going to be a good game, but most people thought it was going to be 2-0 teams going against each other. Now you got the Ravens, and they start 0-3. You got to start getting nervous. I mean, it's not the death nail, but like you look at the stats, you start 0-3. It's real hard to make the playoffs after starting 0-3. And then the Cowboys, if they lose at home to the Ravens and they start 1-2, not pretty for them either. So you hate to say must win this earlier in the year, but man, there's a couple of these teams are going to, if they don't win this week, they're going to have to start getting real nervous.
Yeah, 100%. Tampa Bay, Detroit. Tampa Bay beat Detroit. Detroit just kind of had some kind of mid-season collapse or early season collapse going on there. What the hell happened in this game, man?
So I was watching this one before we jumped on. I went back and was watching the replay, just to kind of, I had it on Sunday, but I was watching, 3-4 games and red zone at once. So I like to go back and rewatch the games to kind of get a feel for what happened. The Bucs just played tough. They just kind of hung around, and then were able to kind of get it done at the end. The Lions right now offensively, they just look a little off. They're just not quite clicking like they did before. And so this game was, it was close to the very end. The Lions were up in the fourth quarter. In the third quarter, they punched in a touchdown to go up 16-13, and then it just became a nothing game in the fourth. No one scored, but Mayfield was able to hit rush up the middle, 11-yard touchdown run to put them up 20-16 at the very end of the third, and then the defense just played tough and kept them in it. Goff just looks a little off right now to me. People came in expecting him to have a really big year. Just home games, 307 passing was nice, but 55 pass attempts. I don't think they want to throw 55 times in a game, and then 2 picks, and the 2 picks hurt them. So it did not set them up good. So if you just like we're looking at the stat line at the end of the day, you're like, oh, all right, 300 for Goff. You flip through the stats. St. Brown with the comeback game, 11 for 119 on 18 targets. You're like, boom, he's back. Jameis Williams, not as great as a game as game one, but still 5 catches for 79, 11 targets out of them. You got 84 yards rushing out of Gibbs. He chipped in another 22 on 7 catches, but that's a tough one. 7 catches for 22 yards, 3 a carry. You want a little bit better than that from Gibbs coming out of the backfield. And Monty doesn't go away. 35 rushes and a touchdown. He's like my touchdown guy every week. Yeah. I take one because they're just going to punch it in with him. That's who he is. He also got 4 catches for 35. So he actually got you a nice little game there with a few things. Sam Laporta right now, can't get him involved. 2 catches, 13 yards in the game. So if you're a Laporta guy and you draft him high in a league, obviously don't give up on him. He's got a long way to go. He is only a second-year tight end, but he's not giving you – if you took him first, second round, he's not giving you that type of production so far this year. But I think the Lions are going to pull it together. I actually thought the Bucs would play them tough. I took the Bucs to cover. I didn't think they'd outright win this game, but I thought they would actually be in this game. Felt like a 3-point game to me. And then when it comes down to the turnovers, turnovers buried them. They say it all the time, but I think in the NFL, it so often the big turnovers or the big penalties is what wins you or loses you a game when it's close. And that's what happened in this one. But I was going to talk to you. Your boy is looking good. Chris Godwin, 2 weeks in, 8 catches, 83 and a touch week 1, 8 for 117 and a touch week 2. you've been preaching, keep the faith. Come on, Chris Godwin. He's gonna get it back. He's gonna pop off. Baker's loving him this year so far.
I think the big problem with Chris Godwin is he's always been good. He's always getting his yards, but he gets hurt all the time. I think that's the biggest flaw. I'm so sick of like being a leader of the Chris Godwin train and then him do something in the middle of every year, tearing this or stretching that or I got rid of him in a couple leagues this year, and it absolutely broke my effing heart to lose Chris Godwin on some teams. And then I kept DJ Moore and got rid of Chris Godwin. That looks like the world's biggest mistake right now, but I mean, it's tough.
It does. It feels like, man, it's like if you stuck with Chris Godwin, you're feeling good right now, but you're like also holding your breath, hoping that he doesn't get hurt. The crazy thing about Chris Godwin is, if you had to guess his age and how long he's been in the league, you would think he's a lot older than he is.
27.
He's only 28. He's only 28 years old. Like, he's just been in the league a long time. He's been 8 years. He's been in the league. I forgot he was so young when he came out of Penn State, but he's off to a good start. So if you got Godwin, you're loving it. I think he's the leading receiver in the NFL right now.
I drafted him in my 2 rookie drafts the year he was a rookie, and that was my 2 longest dynasty leagues. The longest I've had him since he's been a rookie on those 2 teams until this year. I finally had to pull the plug on him, and of course, this is what happens when I trade guys away.
It's the John McGlynn effect. Yes. We know how it works. As soon as you hold and truth a guy, and you hold and you hold and you hold, and then when you finally give up on him is when those guys go off. So you just gotta start sending me that text, John. Be like, hey, I'm out on Chris Godwin. I'm trading him away, so I know to go start grabbing him everywhere.
Or you trade away Deontay Johnson to get Hollywood Brown, and he gets out for the season. That kind of stuff. That happens to me all the time too. Because I'm good like that. But Sam Laporta is the recipient of the Jameson Williams, like finding himself now. That's unfortunately last year, Jameson wasn't doing anything, and Amon-Ra St. Brown had some big games, but now there's some training wheels on this offense now, and they're in the form of Jameson Williams, and unfortunately, Sam Laporta is going to. I reap the lack of benefits from other players stepping up. The Lions, they're super happy about Jameson Williams. Absolutely ecstatic that he's finally found himself. He's a big producer now. He's a huge part of the offense. I mean, he almost looks better than Amon-Ra St. Brown if that's possible. But, I mean, Sam Laporta is going to be in for a huge dose of reality if these 2 guys keep being it like they are. So, with Gibbs and Montgomery, there's just too many mouths to feed on this offense. Sorry about the analogy there, but it is what it is.
Yeah. But yeah, Laporta is just he was the guy that got all the dump offs last year because they couldn't get the ball deep, and now with Jameis stretching the field, they really are trying to push the ball downfield a little bit more. And Laporta's just it's not like he's playing bad. It's not like he's doing anything. He's just not getting the targets because they're spreading it out so much.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump to the Green Bay Packers and the Indianapolis Colts. And this guy, what happened to Alec Pierce? Did you see that game at all? Anything happen in that game? You get to report to me about Alec Pierce?
Of course I watched that game, John. Alec Pierce, another solid day, 5 for 56 and a touchdown. He showed that he can run more than just a go route, so that is nice. I like to see out of that. It was just an ugly game for the Colts. AR with the 3 picks. A couple on him, a couple of them, I don't know if they were his fault. He's had a couple miscommunications with wide receivers that have turned into picks that the wideout went one way and he thought they were going the other way. So I'm not 100% sure who's that on. But I tell you what, the Colts offense, they're going to have to really start cranking it up because their defense is terrible. They cannot stop the run. Worst in the league. They're giving up over 230 yards a game on the ground. Josh Jacobs, 2 weeks in a row. If you have a running back, I told everybody right now, get DeAndre Swift in your lineup for this week for the Bears. 2 weeks in a row, teams have given their tailback 30 carries against the Colts, and they are not stopping anyway. And the DeForest Buckner, who I think is one of the most important players on any team in the league, he is out. IR for the Colts, and when they don't have him, they are even worse against the run. And I didn't think they could be worse than they have been already this year. It's going to be possible. So I really like Shane Steichen as a head coach, but I'm not sure what he's doing. He did not play Jonathan Taylor the entire fourth quarter. and he
Right.
wasn't hurt. And he kept claiming, well, game script, we were down. I'm like, I don't care. How is playing Tyler Goodson or Trey Sermon over Jonathan Taylor make any sense? JT, solid game, 12 carries, 103 yards and a touchdown. Not a single carry in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And it's not like he can't catch the ball out of the backfield. So it's like, man, give him the ball. I was real frustrated at the end of this game. Richardson 17 to 34. Like I said, the 204 yards, touchdown, 3 picks. If you're an AR guy like me, you've got him on a ton of teams. You knew this was coming, though. He's gonna have some monster performances, but he's gonna have some bad games. The guy just hasn't played much in his career. It is gonna happen. For all the Pittman shares out there, it's looking rough right now. I was a Pittman guy. I'm like, he's going to get his 7 targets, which was nice, but only 3 for 21 for him. Donnie Mitchell with a just huge drop in that game that crushed a drive. One catch for 30 yards for him. I think if you just box score watch, you're looking at Anthony Richard going, I just don't get the hype. I don't understand it. But if you're actually watching the games and watching the tape, he is playing better than he looks in the stats, because he's had quite a few drops in some absolute killers that crushed drives when their team really needed it, because the defense was just hurting. They've got to clean that up big time. But I tell you what, it's going to be an interesting Colts season. It's going to be a long season if they continue to give up 30 carries for over 150 to every running back in the league.
Absolutely, it will be. Yes, it will be 100%. So hold on, we gotta go to where are we at here? Sorry, I got off track with the other next game. Cleveland, Jacksonville. So we gotta pick up the pace a little bit here. The Deshaun Watson, 22 for 34, 186 yards. Man, I don't know what's gonna happen with Deshaun Watson. I mean, the Jameis Winston whispers are already coming out now, and that's what happens when you lose games, but they won a game. So winning by the skin of your teeth. It feels good, but you have to look and see, how do I improve my team here? There were some passes that getting Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore kind of involved in this offense here was nice, but Watson missed a couple passes by quite a bit amount too. So Jacksonville just cannot get the ball rolling. I'm not sure what's going on with Trevor Lawrence. I know he's played 2 good defenses. I get it. I understand that, but the first 4 or 5 games of the season for Jacksonville was supposed to be kind of a rough ride. But we expected like 3-2 or 2-3, something like that. To start off 1-2, put yourself behind the 8 ball is not a good look. But Trevor Lawrence, something's got to give here. He's not going anywhere, but it is what it is.
Yeah, me and you love T-Law, but it has been a rough start. They have not looked good. The one bright spot I would say is I think Brian Thomas Jr. could be the guy. I mean, that guy is legit. 2 catches, 94, had a 66-yarder in this one. I just think if they can get the offensive going, he's good. The guy that is you're reeling if you're like me, Christian Kirk. 3 targets, 1 catch, -1 yard. I had a lot of Christian Kirk in our Babies and Boomers league. I traded my boy Tim. I got rid of him, a first and a second for Kirk, and I'm feeling really good about that right now. He in 2 games has 2 catches for 29 yards. He has a 30-yard catch and a -1 yard catch on 7 targets. I think that's a big part of why Lawrence is struggling. They can't get Kirk the ball. Evan Ingram, who was kind of a safety blanket last year, has been hurt. He missed the game again with a hamstring injury. Like I said, I like Thomas, but he's a young guy, can't do it all on his own. So I don't think T-Law is playing absolutely terrible. He is just not getting a lot of help right now.
No help at all. That's you going to get. Why don't you try and trade a late second back for a Christian Kirk and see if Tim gives him up?
see if he gives him back to me. Yeah. I didn't want to trade him in that league, but it's like I was just like, man, a first and a second. I was like, I kind of feel like I got to do that because I got a young team in that league too. So, oh yeah, Joe, we'll be watching this game. Drafted all the Bears players. What are my chances? You know what? I kind of felt like you last year when I had all the Steelers players on my team and they could not score a touchdown for their life. And I was just sitting there every week like, who am I going to play over these guys that didn't have anyone and they couldn't get anything going? I've been watching some Chase Daniel, one of my all-time favorite players. Shout out Chase Daniel, Mizzou alum, one of the greatest backups in the history of the NFL. Great career out of him. He's been breaking things down. on his YouTube channel and for NFL Network, a few other places. He showed it's not all Caleb Williams.
Not at all.
The line has been bad. Guys have not got open at all. I mean, you're watching a lot of his dropbacks and everyone's covered. I mean, there is not a single good look. Obviously, as a QB in the NFL, you gotta thread some needles. You gotta throw some passes that are tough against tight coverage. But he just hasn't had a lot of looks, man. It's not been pretty. If there's a get right game for the Bears, Joe, it's this week against the Colts. This is a get right game. The Colts defense is terrible. I'm expecting some offensive fireworks. Personally, I got a huge group. I bought a ton of tickets for this game for all my buddies to go. We got a huge contingent. They're all Bears fans going to this game. It's going to be interesting. We're hoping it's going to be offensive fireworks. My hope is that the Colts can move the ball because the Bears defense is still good. They're a nice unit, but the Colts defense has been absolutely pitiful. So if you want Bears guys, if you're going to keep playing them, I would play them this week against the Colts. If they do absolutely nothing against the Colts, all right, now you might want to have to start worrying and going, what am I doing? But this is the week I'm playing Bears players because if they're going to get right, it's going to be this week against a really bad Colts defense.
Part of me thinks this is a tongue-in-cheek question. Joe's one of my really good friends who lives out by me. He's got like 60,000 followers on X, but it's all because of cryptocurrency stuff. He's a super smart guy in the crypto world.
Hook me up with some of that crypto money. I could use some of that. Jeez,
Joe's got more money than all of us combined. He's got more money than YouTube with his crypto stuff, but he's a good dude, man. Absolutely. If you're into crypto, follow Joe Carlesare. He's got a lot of boards for the crypto stuff, big-time stuff in Chicago. Joe, thanks for chiming in the show. But, I feel good. Just if you do got all Bears, Joe, which I really wouldn't doubt, that's your hopes are pretty good this week. So, all right, the next game is San Fran and Minnesota. Minnesota, my guy, Sammy Dimes Darnold, killing it again. Long Justin Jefferson pass. I mean, that made every highlight reel across the board. Justin Jefferson pretty much did about 87 working about I think the pass was like 60-some yards in the air, and Justin Jefferson made like an extra 40-yard kind of scamper to the end zone. But, man, it looked good. I'm trying – what would you trade? I'm trying to trade for Justin Jefferson. Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold. Is 2 mid to late seconds too much for Sam Darnold?
I just had this question last night on one of the shows on Fantasy and Frames, and the question was, what would you give up for Darnold? Somebody was trying to get him. I said – I think you got to give up at least a second. I can see 2, depending on the scoring and what kind of league you're in. He was asking about, is a first too much? I would hate to give up a first because you just don't know what's going to happen with him next year. If he continues to play well this year, you got to figure he's going to get some kind of opportunity next year. Mm-hmm. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy coming back from injury. Does Minnesota say, hey, we don't want to stunt the growth of J.J. McCarthy. We get rid of Sam Darnold or they bring him back. So it's a little toughy there. I said in a 2 QB league, I think you absolutely can trade a first. In a super flex league, to me, if I'm absolutely competing and I need him, I would probably give up the first. It hurts. It hurts to give up the first, but if you're in a league where you think you're going to compete this year and you like your team, but you need a QB, you need one more guy, I think Darnold could be that guy. John, I'd do 2 seconds in a Superflex league. Yeah, if I could get him for a second, I'm all in on that. But I think it's going to probably cost you just a bit more.
Nick sent me. I already have 2 good quarterbacks, but Nick stripped in a different league. I asked for Sam Darnold. He sent me to trade. He wants my Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I would have to give him Sam Darnold and Deontay Johnson, which I'm not pulling that trigger. So that's I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about that? I'm not doing it.
Yeah, that's a toughie, man. It's like, do you want the short span of Darnold, what you can get, which I like, but man, it's tough to give a guy like JSN. I feel like JSN is just scratching the surface. He's also super young. Yeah. I mean, he's super young. So he's only a second-year player, but he's also real young. So he's a guy in Dynasty, it'd be tough for me to give up a guy like JSN. There's some other wideouts. I would maybe package some other guys, but he would be tough to pull the trigger.
I'm going to try
unless I absolutely needed it.
I'm going to send a second and 2/3 for Darnold and see if he takes that, and then we'll go from there.
He also is going to try to work you because he knows you and I love Sam Darnold. That's just the way it is. He's like, oh, McGlynn will pay up for Darnold. Yeah, he absolutely will.
He's going to work me out. It's what all he does. That's what he does. He's a professional worker for a living. Yeah.
That's exactly I'm loving what I'm seeing at Darnold. I hope he just stays in this mind frame. And this is where the Minnesota needs him. 17 out of 26. Not great, but 65% completion percentage. 268, 10-3 yards per attempt. Obviously, the monster 97-yarder makes a huge difference in that yards per attempt. But 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's just got, he's got to avoid the turnovers because that's what's killed him in his career is the big turnover games. But hey, if you got JJ, you got Jetta on your team, just throw the ball. Right. Sam Darnold, just give him the ball, man. 4 catches, 133, and a touch. That 97 was beautiful. Jalen Naylor is a guy, if you haven't picked up on the waivers yet.
2 in a row.
He's got 2 decent games in a row. And with this Jordan Addison mess with his ankle right now, Naylor is going to just continue to be a part of this offense. 3 catches, 54 and a touch this week. He only 1 catch last week, but it was 21 yards on a touchdown. That was with Addison playing. So he's a guy that could be a nice little short-term fix here if you're an Addison person and you're trying to figure out what to do with him. But hey, the Vikings, man, 2-0. Sam Darnold's got them started. And San Fran, another nice game out of Jordan Mason. CMC going on the IR, absolutely murdering me as I had no Jordan Mason on any league that I had. I had Elijah Mitchell on a bunch of leagues, but no Jordan Mason on leagues where I had CMC, and him being out is just killing me. And now we hear Debo is probably out this week, 8 catches, 110. San Fran, they're going to have to really start showing what they got now with all these injuries and stuff piling up. It's time for Purdy to earn that extension he wants. He's got to do something pretty quick here.
I figured that Purdy's going to be like a mid-20s quarterback this year. I thought the magic was going to be gone. I didn't want to see it with all these injuries and the whole team fucking collapsing around him, but I mean, that's what's going to happen. He's going to be a 20-some ranked quarterback at the end of the year if he keeps up at this pace because it's not, running the ball is not the answer. And you got a 20 for 36, 319 yards is not absolutely terrible. Touchdown and interception. He's very efficient quarterback, I guess, but it's just I expect a little bit more, I guess.
You said it, John. He is an efficient quarterback. The problem is when he doesn't have all those guys around him to take that efficiency and turn it into big plays and money plays. Is he going to does he stay in the efficiency mindset, or does he start pushing it a little bit, trying to make big plays? And then what happens then? Does he make the big plays, or do those turn into turnovers? So that's what we're going to have to see with Purdy here over the next couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens there. But all right, Seattle, New England. This was a really good game. New England's playing a lot better than a lot of people thought we're going to start the season. Everybody had New England as one of the first couple picks of the next year, not knowing that they were going to be this competitive. The defense has definitely kept them alive. Okay, we'll put it that way. But Geno Smith looks pretty damn good, man. He's making things happen. 33 of 44 for 327, a touchdown. Some big crucial runs. Also, runs that were not good on a stat line, but things that made the game flow better for them. The Charbonnet filled in just fine. Seattle's a pretty well-balanced team, man, across the board. I wish that my tight end, Noah Fantastic, would finally do something this year. I'm like that meme with the stick. Come on, do something, but it's just not happening. Antonio, but and on the other side of the spectrum, Jacoby Brissett looks just fine. Drake May's warming up to take over the spot. But as right now, if they're winning and they're staying competitive, there's no reason to rush Drake May in, especially when you got Stevenson and Gibson running like they did. Gibson did 11 for 96 and a reception. With 2 running backs that they are and the defense that they got right now, they don't have to do anything special.
The fact that they decided to start Brissett made me think like this team might be more competitive than I thought. If they're going Brissett, because Brissett he's not a game breaker by any means, but he's a really solid quarterback. He I think is highly underrated. He's a guy that will keep you in games. He will play solid football, and that's what he's doing for this team. He's not going to blow you away on the stat sheet, but he plays solid football. And if they can run the ball as well as they have so far, which has been really good. So if you're a Ramondre Stevenson owner, you're loving it because everything he didn't give you last year, he's given you so far through 2 weeks this year. And then we had our Monster Hunter Henry game, of course, with him on my bench in a million spots because I just didn't trust to play him this week. 12 targets, 8 catches, 109 yards. All he missed was a touchdown in there. I think he's going to be part of the mix. The big hurt right now was if you were looking for those rookies to step up at wide receiver, and Polk and Baker, they've got a ways to go. Polk, a nice touchdown. Yeah, he got a touchdown, but so far through 2 games, 1 catch for 6 yards and 2 catches for 12. They did get the TD, like I said, but this team is not going to be throwing the ball around a lot. It's going to be tough to play any of these wide receivers this year. I think you got to stick to Stevenson, Gibson if you have to, and then Hunter Henry, especially if you're in like a tight end premium or Cert 2 tight end league, is a guy you probably can play. But beyond that, this is for fantasy wise. New England continues to be a bummer for most people.
Yeah, absolutely. Next game, Jets at the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis continues to do Will Levis stupid things. Not good for fantasy, not good for the NFL, not good for his future if he keeps up this kind of bullshit. That's. I mean, you had called it. You said it from day one. You don't like Will Levis because of that stuff. But Aaron Rodgers is surprising me more than anything. I thought for sure he'd have a little bit more control of the offense than he does right now. 18 for 30, 176, 2 touchdowns. That's not. He was a game manager. He had a lot of throws that were on target that were just kind of like not caught or just kind of like. He looked pretty good in the pocket. He looked like he understands the game. He looked like he was in control. It just didn't seem right. Something wasn't right for Jets offense. I'm not sure what's off kilter or what the story is, but they just don't have everything under control yet. What did you see out of Aaron Rodgers and the Jets offense, first of all?
Yeah, I think Rodgers is going to be solid this year. I think he's going to do some decent things for the Jets. I don't think he's going to be a big fantasy guy. And I said that all year. I think he's going to be around 200, 215 in most games passing yards. They don't want to throw a ton. The nice thing about him is he throws a ton of touchdowns down near the goal line. So if you need the touchdowns, that helps. It obviously it hurts if you're a Breece Hall owner because he's not getting a lot of carries inside the 5, which he didn't last year. You'd hope that would change this year. So far, it hasn't. But Breece Hall, again, will continue to be a solid fantasy player, top-end guy because of all the catches. 62 yards on the ground on 14 carries, but then 7 catches for 52 and a touch there. So very nice for him there, which is great. And I tell you what, your boy, Braylon Allen, people were talking about it. Can he work his way up? What can he do? Follow the 4th round. Youngest player to score in NFL history in a game. Looked really good. 7 carries, 33 yards and a touch. He also caught 2 passes for 23 and a touch. So he's going to be tough to start every week just because he's behind Breece Hall. But I tell you what, Braylon Allen right now is got to be one of the top handcuffs in the league. If something happens to Breece Hall, Braylon Allen is going to be a stud for the Jets. I'm loving it. I was way down on him after the combine, some of the stuff in the offseason, and then going so late in the draft, it had me just ultra worried about him. But I'm feeling way better about him now after seeing these first couple weeks. I think the Jets really like him.
I like him a lot as a player, just because he didn't run the combine. He fell so far in the draft. I love Braylon Allen coming out. I absolutely loved him, and he fell so far. And when you fall in the draft, all these analysts, it's ADP. Your ADP is like 80% of their, especially for rookies coming out. If you're drafted in the 4th round or 5th round or something, you might as well be dead. These guys don't give you a chance. You got to come in and prove yourself. And Braylon Allen's a big dude, man. He's a big dude. He can pound the rock and catch out of the backfield. One of his biggest things was his pass blocking thing. I get it. It is what it is. But, not running a 40 really hampered. These analytics nerds, if they don't have every stat given to them, they keep knocking you down. Braylon Allen's a solid player. The only thing playing behind Breece Hall, like you said, that's the biggest, I guess, feather in the cap of ripping on him that people have right now. Is that he always plays behind Breece Hall. He's not going to get a chance. When he gets a chance, you see what he does. And I'm not saying that Tennessee is the best defense in the world, but Braylon Allen is a pretty damn good player. I think he's super underrated. I just wish I would have. I'm in a lot of drafts with the same people. When I drafted him in the first draft, when I had a lot of picks, and all my buddies that saw me draft was spend up to get him. They all took him in front of me in the other drafts I was in. So I don't have too much of Braylon Allen, but I wish I did. Now I'm not going to get him after games like this, when he shines a little bit on the opportunities he has. He's definitely a hold for a lot of people. He's going to be around for a long time because he's so young. He's still 20 years old. So,
yeah, the waiver wire darling, Alan Lazard, after the monster week 1 with 6 catches for 89 and 2 touchdowns, comes back to Alan Lazard level with 2 catches and 11 yards. Saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah.
Conklin still 1 catch, 10 yards. I thought Conklin would be a little more involved. He hasn't been. Not much for the rookie Malachi Corley yet. As everybody was kind of hoping for him. He got his first catch of his career, but 1 catch for 4 yards is all for him. Hey, I think on this team, you're pretty much leaning Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. And right now, I wouldn't be confident playing anybody else really other than those 2 guys.
Yeah, the Tennessee side, we talked about Will Levis already. Spears and Power didn't have the same crazy game they had week 1. That was crazy for Pollard. We thought that was kind of crazy.
Jets got a good D. I think Pollard's going to be decent this year. And you see with Tennessee, they're going to have to monitor how often they're putting Levis in chances in situations to turn over the ball. Like they got to – he has a penchant for it. He just does it. So I think Pollard will end up being better than I thought he was going to be this year. I wasn't pumped. I got him in one league because I was in an auction league and we were running out of running backs, and I was already trying to trade him before week 1. And I'm like, maybe I'll hold him for a little bit. Calvin Ridley had a nice game. If you had Ridley in your lineup, 4 catches, 77 and a touch, after, he had 3 catches, 50 week 1. I think it's going to be a little mixed bag with Levis throwing the ball all year, but you could do worse than Calvin Ridley at wide receiver, I think.
Yeah, I think Hopkins is still hurt, but he does these things where, like, they said it on TV. If you watch the games, they said it in a lot of things. He's had the most games where he's never missed at least 1 catch in every game he played in. So they're going to get him the ball at least once. He hobbles out there, catch the pass, and then that's it. Tyler Boyd is probably my favorite pickup right now. He's not doing too much, but he's a great player. I think he's going to be someone to be peppered a lot. So I'll do that. I would pick up Tony Pollard. Tyler Boyd if you had if he's on your waiver wire, or try to trade for him for a 4th or 5th round pick if somebody doesn't trust him. Tyler Boyd is an underrated player. So
yeah, he's got 5 catches, 44 yards, so nothing crazy. So if you are like John and you're a buyer, I think you could get him for cheap. I think a lot of people are ready to move on from Boyd.
Ugly game, Giants and Redskins, or Giants Commanders. Commanders pulled this one out. Jaden Daniels looks pretty good. He's still a rookie. He took some hits. This was kind of what people were afraid of.
Every time he took one, I was like, oh no, because he took some huge ones in college, and I was like, man, I like what he's starting. Let's hope he doesn't get killed out there. But he's off to a solid start, man.
Yeah, he
23 out of 29, 79%, 226. Did get sacked 5 times, which is not great. He also didn't have the rushing numbers he had the week before, but still 10 carries for 44 yards. And honestly, Brian Robinson, 17 carries, 133. He has looked solid. I wasn't a big B-Rob guy, but he is growing on me for sure. Terry McLaurin, they got to figure something out with there. I love Terry McLaurin. I can't figure out what they're doing right now. 2 catches, 17 in week 1. Six catches is nice in week 2, but 22 yards? I mean, this is Jalen Daniels, a guy who threw the ball deep in college all the time, and they are not letting him unleash much right now. So I love to see him get McLaurin more involved downfield. And Zach Ertz, surprisingly, if you are just desperate for tight end in like a tight end premium or deep league, he's actually been playable, which I am desperate in a couple of those leagues, and I've got him in a couple of leagues. He had 4 catches for 62, and then 3 for 28, 4 targets in each of the first 2 games. So he looks like, at least for now, he is going to be in the mix ahead of the rookie.
Buy low, Terry McLaurin. Everyone needs to get, this is somebody that people are, it's not working out, or the people who, some people don't like Terry McLaurin because he's never been a humongous producer. I figured this was his breakout year. New quarterback, new system, new everything. Hasn't shown it yet, but it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. If somebody doesn't want Terry McLaurin, or kind of sick of his age, he's running out of time, blah, blah, make another trade. Try and get Terry McLaurin for a late 2nd, early 3rd, something like that, if you could do it, 2/3. I'm definitely pulling the trigger on trying to trade for Terry McLaurin right now before these games. because once he has one good game, you're not getting him anymore. That's just
I think he's got a lot. It's been a disappointing start, but I think he's going to improve as Daniels, they get a little more comfortable. They let him open up the playbook a bit more. I think you're going to see a little bit more of him coming on, but it just might be a little later in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Malik Neighbors, huge game, 10 for 18, 127 and a touchdown. Just everybody knew that Malik Neighbors was going to get just peppered with targets. There's nobody else on this team really that's as good.
It's great, right? It's like the one time in fantasy we're like, this guy should get 1 million targets, and he's getting 1 million targets. That's great. He got 18 targets this week, 10 for 127 touchdown. I wish there was a couple other guys that would get that many targets on some other teams, but 2 solid weeks in a row for Malik Neighbors, 5 for 66 in week 1 on 7 targets. They really hit him up in this one. I mean, if I'm Daniel Jones, I'm throwing it to Neighbors as often as I possibly can to try to keep this job. Devin Singletary, I said he was going to be a pretty playable guy. If they could stay in games, if they can stay close and give him the ball, 16 carries, 95 yards, 5.9 a carry with a touchdown. He did lose a fumble, which hurt, but he was nice running the ball. So I said my play this week. I'm already playing JSN over Daniels in a super flex league, 16 to 28, 178. He did have the 2 touchdowns, did have 5 carries for 32 yards, so it wasn't a complete wash. 200 total yards and 2 touchdowns for Daniel Jones. This team has got me nervous, and they're going against a pretty good Cleveland team this week. That's definitely got me nervous where I'm not sure I want to play anyone other than Neighbors for the Giants in this upcoming week.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the Rams and the Cardinals. The Cardinals are they looked like they were like the Super Bowl contending or NFC contenders, NFC champs this week. They looked really good. Kyler Murray looked absolutely fantastic. The offense as a whole, just across the board. Marvin Harrison looks fantastic. I'm not really sure what I think the Rams just getting I'm not going to say
decimated. The injuries, man. No Puka. Cooper Kupp going out. It crushed me. I got Cooper Kupp in a ton of leagues this year. That hurt. You saw Stafford at that point was really fighting to figure out who he's throwing the ball to. He had 216 yards, but took 5 sacks. They couldn't get the run game going against not usually a very good run defense in Arizona. Kyron Williams, 12 carries for 25, did get a touchdown to save your day. And Blake Corum, the rookie, got in there. He got some carries too, but not much for him either. 8 for 28 for him. As once Arizona got up, it was just, there was nothing the Rams could do. They couldn't run the ball anymore. They lost all their big time players in the secondary. If you're desperate for someone, if he's still out there and not on the roster, go get Demarcus Robinson. I don't absolutely love him as a player, but man, if there's no Kupp and no Puka for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, somebody's going to have to get some catches on this game, and Demarcus Robinson is probably going to end up being that guy.
I thought it was going to be Whittington. I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep saying Whittingham.
You say it every week, so I think we should just change his name.
But again, if you've ever played any kind of organized sports and like the heart and soul of your team gets hurt or something happens, you kind of see that as soon as a Kupp got out of this game, Arizona, it looked like the 85 Bears defense on here. It was as soon as Kyron Williams or Blake Corum touched the ball, it's all you saw was a sea of red jerseys just swarming them. It was kind of impressive how Arizona was just they belittled. I don't even want. There's no nice word to say what Arizona did to LA in this game, but they look like a whole different team. So,
Arizona, I think is going to surprise me this year. I liked what they were doing on offense. I was worried about whether their defense could hold up at all this year.
Mm-hmm.
So far played tough at Buffalo. At home in this game, everybody had the Rams. I was super nervous. I was like, man, I kind of think the Cardinals are going to cover. They play the Rams always tough, especially at home. I mean, James Conner still bringing it. 21 carries, 122 yards and a touch. So that was fantastic. I traded him away in one league, and I was like, and now CMC's hurt, and I'm like killing myself for trading him away. I'm like, damn, why did I do that? I got super excited and got Brian Thomas in a draft, and I traded away Connor in a deal there. That one's hurting me big time right now. But Marvin Harrison, So 1 week, right, John? The worst player ever, everyone ripping him, slowest guy in the history of football because he wasn't running fast routes down the. I feel it's kill me on Twitter sometimes.
Yeah, right.
1 catch, 4 yards. Everyone saying, "Oh, this guy is a punk. He didn't work out." Blah blah. Okay, 4 for 130 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think we maybe overblew that just a hair. So keep playing Marvin Harrison Jr. Don't take him out of your lineup. Trey McBride, nice little bounce back for people on him. 6 catches, 67 for him. Nothing crazy, but that's pretty solid. And right now, outside of those 2 guys and Connor, yeah, man, every once in a while I'm like, oh, maybe do you play Dortch? Maybe you play, Michael Wilson. Those guys are just going to be flyers at this point.
Absolutely.
They're only getting 1 or 2 targets a game, but I think you can pretty freely play Kyler Murray, Connor, and Harrison with McBride every week at this point until an injury happens. They are looking good. And I told people, if you got somebody in your league that is super they just give up on guys right away, maybe go look for some of these rookie running backs. Trey Benson did get 11 touches, but only had 10 yards. He's a guy I like a ton.
Yes.
But he hasn't had a lot of work early, and he hasn't looked great early. So if you got somebody who's just maybe like trigger happy and wants to like a second next year or something, or you could trade maybe some vets, I would maybe try to go out and get some Trey Benson if I can. If somebody's already, I hope they weren't ready to give up on him because it's 2 games into his rookie year, and then we knew he was going to be behind James Conner. But if you do have a guy like that, I'd maybe shake the trees, see if anybody's interested in making a move for him.
Yeah, I think most people kind of knew that Benson and Brooks were going to be like second half of rookie year kind of, because if you wait till the offseason to get these guys, you're not getting them. Like, if you're in a dynasty league before the end of the season, you better have one of those guys in your team or you're not getting them next year. That kind of. Your Pittsburgh Steelers traveled to Denver to play the absolute terrible Bo Nix led Denver Broncos offense. Obviously, you probably started every play of this game, so Justin Fields only had to do things that kept the Steelers above water, and that's what he did. 13-6, they won this game. Justin Fields only 117 yards passing, kind of reminiscent of Bears' days. He did score a touchdown, though, 8 for 27, which is not crazy impressive for someone who runs like Justin Fields does. But they just had to beat the Broncos. That's all they had to do. So there was no dramatics needed here. Nothing crazy, but it still was kind of an ugly game. What did you see here?
So here's the thing. The stats don't tell the whole story in this one, as they usually don't. Fields has done a really nice job of not turning the football over. So that's a big thing for him so far. I did have a fumble in this game, but didn't lose it. Didn't throw a pick. Only 117 passing and a touchdown, but I tell you what, he has thrown some absolute gems to George Pickens that have got called back on penalties.
Yes.
They've got about 150 to 200 yards combined passes, him to George Pickens, that have been called back in this game. He also had multiple pass interferences where he threw dimes on deep passes where the guy just barely didn't catch it, and it was a pass interference for about a 40-yard gain, 50-yard gain. So this is where Justin Fields is playing absolutely way better than the numbers are showing right now. He should have easily had over 200 yards passing in this game. Same thing last week. When people looked at his stats last week, they're like, oh, solid first game. Is the opener against Atlanta, 156. But again, he had a 50-yarder call back in that on a penalty. He had another deep ball called back on a penalty in that game. So he should have been. So, yes, he's got 2 games, 156, 117. That doesn't look like it's lighting it up. But Justin Fields is playing solid. He's playing solid football. This defense is great. This Pittsburgh Steelers defense is a top 5 defense, man. They're playing great right now, and I think that they're going to play real conservative as long as this defense stays healthy and continues to play the way they are. They're running the ball more than any team in the league, which we had a feeling that might be the case when Arthur Smith came over. So far right now, they have the highest run percentage of any team in the league, so that doesn't help you out if you've got like George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, those types of guys. But Muth with a couple nice catches, 4 for 39. He's now got 4 catches in back-to-back games. I think he is just getting warmed up. And George Pickens, he's another buy for me if people have like looked at the stat line and are like, oh, 6 for 85 and 2 for 29. And they look at Fields and like, well, Fields is no good. There's no way he can be great this year. George Pickens is just making plays. He is just getting like, he's either getting deep pass interference calls, or he, like I said, he got called for an offensive pass interference. Is one of the worst calls I've ever seen in the Atlanta game that wiped out like a 50-yard catch in that game. And then they had 3 penalties on one drive from Broderick Jones that were so bad that they actually yanked him out of the game and did not play him the rest of the game at all. Offensive line that wiped out a couple beautiful passes from Fields to Pickens. So don't give up on Pickens. And if you got Fields, I know it's not pretty right now and he's not giving you fantasy points. So if you got somebody else you can play, probably not a bad idea. But I'm telling you, a huge breakout game is coming for both those guys because the play has been there. It just hasn't shown up on the stat sheet. And I will say this about Denver before I shut my mouth and let you actually say something. I feel like I was right on Bo Nix. I know it's only 2 games in. I was not a Bo Nix guy. I passed on him everywhere in rookie drafts. Not that I can't stand Bo Nix. I just don't like this Denver situation. I think Sean Payton is whatever he was as a coach, a good coach in the past. I don't think it's there anymore. I think this team is a mess. I just don't want any part of the Broncos right now. I really don't. I don't trust this coaching staff at all. So Bo Nix, 246, 2 picks. Again, played a really tough defense. So, I mean, I think the Steelers are underrated. They cannot get the run game going at all. Javonte Williams, 11 for 17. Bo Nix actually led him in rushing with 4 rushes for 25 yards. And the receiving situation,
that's crazy.
My God, I don't know what to do. Leading the team in receptions, Josh Reynolds, 4 catches for 93 yards, had a 49-yarder. That was the really the big one. Little Jory Humphreys making a return. Haven't seen him in a while. 4 catches for 50 for him. They continue to hate Marvin Mims with a passion. 2 targets, 1 catch for 10 yards. And then my guy really helped me out last year. Big time performances, Cortland Sutton, not Cam Sutton, sorry. Cortland Sutton so far has not made that connection with Nix. 1 catch for 26 in this one. He had 4 for 38 on 12 targets last week. So 12 targets last week, but it has not turned into any production. And I know you've liked Greg Dulcich in the past. He did not look good in this one. Couple drops, 8 targets, only 3 catches for 16 yards. I am saying avoid this entire Broncos offense if you can.
Yeah, I traded away Javonte Williams in the offseason for a second, a third, and Hollywood Brown, which he went to right the IR, so that didn't help at all. But I feel like I emptied the grenade.
You won that trade. I feel like you're going to end up winning that trade when it's all said. And I have a feeling.
Yeah, I think the second was actually shit. Damn it, I forgot who I picked on there.
I got the 1-8 for Javonte, not before this year, but before last season. And I was pretty pumped.
I got Keon Coleman with that pick, with the second round pick anyway. So
yeah, there you go. I'll take it. You got time there. You got time.
Javonte's playing Denver. Javonte's playing Tampa Bay again this week. So the rush defense is not going to be any kind of better than. I mean, the running game for Denver is not going to be any better this week. Tampa Bay's got a pretty damn good run defense.
Yeah, so. The defenses look nice for Tampa. Again, I'm avoiding the Broncos if I can.
Across the board. All right, 2 games left here. The next one, 3 games. Cincinnati at Kansas City. I'm not, the big thing was there were Joe Burrow was on the podcast, what's their name, the Kelsey Brothers podcast, and he said our team is built to beat Kansas City, and this was a scary game for Kansas City. They until I don't know why the hell they have these last minute heroics all the time. I don't know why they just don't put people away, but this is what Kansas City does. They toy with people all the time. You see them in a Super Bowl down by a touchdown or 2 every game. They just can't go out and just play their game across the entire game. They have to play this cat and mouse bullshit game all the time. But they did it again. They came out. They won. It was kind of a crazy game, but this is the things that Patrick Mahomes just wins games. He finds a way to win. If Pacheco got hurt, they lost him for a while. Carson Steele got the ball. Carson Steele was more of a fullback than a running back. So they brought in a couple What
Kareem Hunt. They signed Kareem Hunt. We'll see if he's got anything left in the tank. He did not look good at the end in Cleveland. Basically, could have kept him for nothing and said, we don't want you. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this week. Obviously, the big waiver wire pickup this week was Carson Steele for most people. Everybody was spending everything they have. I don't know if I think he'll get some touches, but I could see a lot more. I could see them working in Perrine a little bit more. I know he didn't get much lately, but he's got experience. And here's the thing is, I know people think that they're going to go get whoever they pick up is going to be Pacheco. I don't think it's going to happen. I think you're just going to end up with a bunch of different guys touching the ball a few times a game, and you're going to be disappointed every week. I just got a bad feeling about that. But Joe was right. For some reason, the Bengals just play their balls off against Kansas City. I don't know what it is. They always play them tough. I'll tell you what. I hope I don't get a whole lot more games out of Kansas City because, man, Mahomes and Travis Kelce just murdered me this week. Mahomes 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 picks. Kelce 1 catch for 5 yards. Ouch. I mean, Rashee Rice looked really good, but beyond him, the 5 for 75 and a touch. I'm liking Rashee. If you bought the dip before the season when it looked like he was going to get suspended, he still probably is going to get suspended next year, but I don't think that dip's coming back. If he keeps playing the way he's playing, even if he does miss a couple games next year, I think the price is going to be way too high for him. He just seems like he's turning into the guy here. And then Xavier Worthy, the rookie, great debut with the 2 touchdowns. You knew he was going to come back to earth a little bit. I still expect him to have some good games throughout the year, but it is going to be hit and miss. Just 1 rush for 5 yards and 2 catches for 17 in this one last week. So I need Mahomes to get back on track for a lot of leagues, and I need Kelce to get back on track. But I think Rashee Rice is definitely a safe play every week. I think the running back situation is going to be ugly moving forward for Kansas City. I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping somebody takes over. Carson Steele does it. I've got him on a few teams. It'd be nice. I just don't know if that's going to be the case.
I think that Rashee Rice is the new focal point of this offense. I think Kelce's kind of seeing his way out the door. This is his kind of way of but the middle of the field is just Rice is everywhere. He's getting the ball everywhere. That's going to be, if they're funneling the ball to anybody, it's Rashee Rice. Losing Pacheco is tough because there's not many people in the NFL that run like Isaiah Pacheco does. And I'm not a big Pacheco fan, but man,
I'm not either, but he fits that team.
Yeah, he fits this team is right. He wouldn't, a lot of teams, he would have got, beat up or, not panned out or whatever the deal may be. But Pacheco he gets the yards they need. He is like the, he is the dirty bird that just gets in there and gets the job done for a team that usually plays on finesse. And they need that Rocky Balboa kind of tough guy in the locker room. And that's for sure Isaiah Pacheco. Losing him is going to be humongous for this Kansas City Chiefs team. So, like you said, nobody can run. P. Ryan is more of a receiver. He's a big dude, but he's more of a receiver on the backfield than he is a between the tackles kind of guy. Pacheco, man, they're going to miss him a lot. So I'm not looking forward to this. I'm looking for the Chiefs possibly to have like a hiccup the next couple weeks until they figure out their identity without Isaiah Pacheco. All right, so next game, the Bears and the Houston Texans. Houston looks pretty damn good. They are pretty damn good. I'm going to say that Caleb Williams, although he did not look great, he showed a lot of improvement in this game. And if you watch this game, that poor kid, I am not the quarterback sympathizer guy. Hey, quarterbacks hold the ball too long. The Bears offensive line they were playing Ole, like letting the bull go with that Ole and Caleb Williams. At one point, I watched the play. I can't remember who the defensive lineman was, but he got through and just like frog leaped and just fell right on top of Caleb Williams. I thought Caleb Williams was going to die. It was so bad. I felt so bad for Caleb Williams. I'm not sure what the Bears got to do, but they have to do something because they will not have a quarterback by the end of the season if Caleb Williams doesn't get some protection. They didn't have a running game going. They didn't have Roshan Johnson still doesn't have a touch this entire season. I have no idea what the hell's going on there. If you need to get the ball or chew up some clock, get some guys to the middle, what the hell are you sitting Roshan Johnson for? I don't understand that. But playing in Travis Homer, there's nothing here. It's the same stupid plays, and it's a terrible offensive line. Caleb Williams needs to have some protection. It is absolutely embarrassing what's going on with this offense right now, and it's terrible. And I know the Bears are not notorious for getting quarterbacks. We went through the stat about the Green Bay's only had 3 quarterbacks to the Bears 38 the last 35 years. And man, it's just I don't know, JT. What the hell are they going to do if they can't? If Caleb Williams get hurt, what are they going to do?
I mean, I actually like Tyson Bagent, their backup, but I think this Texans defense is really good, so I think that is part of it. Like I said, you got to play your Bears players this week against the Colts because they've been so terrible. I know you see DeAndre Swift, and you look at him and you go, "Hey, 14 carries, 18 yards." Like, ugh. He did have 4 catches for 24 though, but I think they're going to get the ball to him. If the I'll say this: if the Bears come out and they aren't pounding the rock against the Colts, then this coaching staff are dumb. I mean, as dumb as you can get because like everyone else has been able to do it against them. They need to run the ball. They need to give Caleb Williams some time. I think we're really going to see a test with him this week. If he can put something together this week, I think we're going to look good. Again, that was an ugly game, a 19-13 game. I think the Bears defense is really good. I mean, I think they did a really nice job on Stroud, who still was solid, but 260, 1 touchdown. They did a really nice job against the running game. Obviously, Joe Mixon got banged up, so that hurt a little bit as they had to lean on Cam Akers later in the game. Nico Collins looks like a freaking stud. Everybody was worried whether he was going to lose touches with Diggs. He has not. 8 catches, 135 for him. He looks fantastic. Diggs 4 for 37. Still trying to work in Tank Dell. 1 catch for -3 on 4 targets. So if you're a Tank Dell owner, you're a little nervous on seeing his usage here early in the year. But I think this Houston team's good. It wasn't a great offensive week as far as outside of Nico for you against this Bears defense. But I think you're going to see a lot of ugly games with the Bears this year. I think their defense is way better than people thought they would be. And I just think the offense just needs some time. It's just kind of been an ugly start. Like I said, I know Caleb Williams is getting ripped, but he's a young QB. He started off this year playing, 2 pretty good defenses, to go. So, and the O line's got to be better, like you said. It was real bad. But I'm playing my Bears players this week. You just got to against the Colts because the Colts have just been absolutely awful so far. I could actually see a pretty nice if Keenan Allen sits again. I think you could see a nice maybe a Dunze breakout game here for the rookie. Had 2 catches for 33 yards on 5 targets in this one, but I could see him having a pretty nice game. And again, like I'm all over a Swift game. I think Swift could have a real nice game against the Colts. The holes have just been gigantic against them, and guys that can cut back have just looked great against them so far.
Tank Dell and Rome Dunze are the definition of buy low players, especially Rome Dunze for a dynasty league. These guys are just, if somebody's sick of them or doesn't want them, I'm just sending offers out. You never know. Send a 3rd for Tank Dell, see if somebody takes it. Like things like that. Those are things, especially if one of these top 2 guys gets hurt, if Nico or Diggs goes down, Tank Dell is going to be worth a fortune. He'll be a league winner if that was to happen. If Diggs gets pissed off and has one of his tantrums, and they start throwing to Dell. Tank Dell is a great player, especially and a guy like a Dunze who's not lighting up the scoreboard right now. Some people are like, "What the hell? They got this quarterback. They got this. Why can't they throw to Dunze? He must not be good." If people get the wrong impression or are getting antsy about why their rookie draft pick or one of their late round picks in a redraft isn't getting the ball, Rome Dunze is a buy low also. So go get him if you can. That's just my only advice, I guess, for fantasy football here.
Yeah, and it's going to be an interesting week. I mean, you got Texans Vikings, right? Yep. So I mean, that's 2-0 teams. Yeah, Houston a 2-point favorite in that one. Going to be interesting. I think you're going to see some offense out of the Texans in that game. Hopefully, Justin Jefferson is a little banged up. Hopefully, he's a go in this game because I want to see Sam Darnold get it to him a few more times. Keep that thing rolling. But I think could be a pretty nice game there. Minnesota against Houston. See how good that Minnesota offense can be. Well, I mean, obviously played a real tough Niners defense, and now they get back-to-back tough games against Houston's D.
Yeah. Atlanta and Philly was the Monday night game. I watched it. I had Saquon Barkley and I had Jalen Hurts in the league, and I saw this drop. Everything they scored on, there was a touchdown that was called back. There was a play, a little outside. Wasn't quite a wheel route. It was kind of a wide receiver out kind of thing. Or I mean, a running back out of the backfield kind of thing. and it just hit Saquon's fingers. I'm not sure what the hell he usually catches those balls. And I'm not saying it was a for sure touchdown because there's 2 defenders in the area.
He would have definitely had the first down though, and that would have ran the clock out. So
they would have won.
I'm
still the highest score in the league I was in, and I have and it's and I'm 2-0, but I would have had like an extra 30 points if all the plays between Saquon and Jalen Hurts would have went through. It was kind of like everything was reviewed. It wasn't a first down. They dropped the pass. There was a penalty. I was like, come on, man. Like it makes me furious sometimes to watch football games when fantasy football is the only thing on your mind and instead of just enjoying the game. That's why I like when I don't have everybody playing, you can just sit back, watch the Thursday night game and kind of have a couple beers and enjoy football. But man, when the things go through your head about what you need to win for fantasy or what you want to happen, it just brings a whole different person out of your soul.
I know. I've been trying hard not to look at my fantasy score before the Monday night game, just because I'm like, oh, then I think about every freaking play that I was like, oh my god, if I would have had that, I would have had that. But Atlanta finally got it going. The Eagles defense, I don't know why that was crazy. They just let them drive all the way down the field. I hate. The crazy thing was the Eagles were trying to basically run the clock out. If they score a touchdown, the game's over. Because they were already up 3. It would have been 2-score game with like less than a minute left. I don't know why these coaches don't ever think about that. I'm like, hey, man, you score, it's over. It's not like you're scoring and they're getting the ball back with a chance to tie or win. Like, you're up 10. That's it. So, but they just tried to bleed the clock, bleed the clock. And then he decides to be ballsy and throw the ball, which it was actually a good call. If the call works, everybody's praising him for being ballsy enough to call the pass play and they get the first down and they win the game. But it was just frustrating to watch. I didn't mind the call at the end. Obviously, they run another 40 seconds off, but it didn't really matter because you saw they just drove down the field in 3 plays anyway. But yeah, at least Kirk Cousins with the garbage time made you feel a little bit better if you're a Cousins owner. 241 passing, 2 touchdowns. I did like to see the big play to Mooney. He had the 41-yarder for a touchdown. I have him in a decent amount of leagues. I thought he could be an okay flex play this year. He just absolutely killed me in week 1. Didn't play well at all. Did have 3 catches for 88 and a touch on 7 targets. 6 for 54 and a touchdown for London on 7 targets. So that's a nice sign for him. People believe in him. Pitts 3 for 20. Still kind of trying to figure out what's going to happen with Pitts. Bijan looked good, though. Just missed 100 yards rushing, 14 for 97. He did get 4 catches for 25 out of the backfield. No scores for him, but if he would have had one, he would have had a real nice day. So, obviously, Bijan is still bringing in the Eagles. It's what are you going to do? Barkley's look great. No, obviously, no A.J. Brown in this one. A nice one for Devontae Smith. I was hoping for a little more out of Goddard without A.J. Brown. Didn't happen. 3 for 38 for him. But, Hurts ran the ball a little bit more. He looked good, 2 scores. He's still got he's got to watch out on his picks. But, man, this Eagles team has way too many big names, way too many high draft picks for their defense to be as bad as it's been and for them to be giving up plays like this at the end of games.
I got Josh Allen off somebody, and it's a super flex with a lot of scoring. I got Josh Allen for Matt Stafford and Kyle Pitts like 3 years ago, and I'm like, man, that was one of my better trades, especially because Kyle Pitts I don't know why this offense, when Kirk Cousins came here, I thought for sure this offense was going to turn around and be the Kyle Pitts show. I don't know what the hell is going on with Kyle Pitts. I have no idea why he just can't find the ball. He found the end zone last week, but it was one of a couple targets. I don't know when this offense is going to change to get Kyle Pitts the ball. There's only a handful of Mooney is not the answer. He's more of a best ball guy than anything. I like Drake London, and he's a short yardage guy. You get 6 or 7 targets. That's what he does. He's a 6, 7, 8 target guy. He gets a lot of fantasy points from volume. But man, I understand that this offense is supposed to run through Bijan and Tyler Algier, I guess we'll put it at this point in time. But when is Pitts going to get involved in this offense?
Yeah, that's the tough part. At least Cousins, looked a little bit better this week. You hope every week he just keeps improving a little bit more, and he feels more comfortable, from that Achilles injury that he's recovering from. But I think the Falcons are going to be in the mix. They're going to get this offense together. I understand that Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, but and these guys are professionals, but it still takes time. It still takes time for guys to get used to each other, get the timing, get the routes together. I think they'll be pretty good. The Eagles, though, man, that was a real bad loss at home. That's and you just after what happened last year, where they just melted down at the end of the year after just a great start. You wonder where is the breaking point for them? What bad loss is the one that's going to make everybody just go over the edge?
Yeah.
So nervous about that as far as is just the Eagles on the year. But, for the most part, their guys have shown up, and Barkley's been awesome. I mean, what can you say? If you took Barkley, you're super pumped about it because he has looked great so far. And he's, like I said, a couple little plays here and there, and he has even a bigger game than he had.
You're right. Huge. It would have been huge.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, very good. That is all the games this week. We're at an hour and 40 minutes, which it seemed like we were talking for 25 minutes, and it's been an hour and 40 minutes. I don't know where the time goes on these episodes. We talk a little bit.
Speed right by.
How long did this show seem to you? Like a 35, 45 minutes kind of thing like that?
Yeah, I thought we were going to get under an hour and a half for sure. And then I looked up, I was like, oh man, we're already past it.
So before the show, me and JT were talking about how we're going to handle, should we talk about this week? And I saw after the first game, when we were kind of jumping back and forth, and we took already 20 minutes to do the first couple games. I'm like, we're going to just try and get through the games and then go back and review them. And it's like, that still didn't work, but I don't mind. Hey, I have a good time talking football with you, JT. It's nice, just kind of, I don't care if this is what we do. We'll do another show and try and talk about weeks. I guess we need to do 2 shows every week. One a pass from last week, and then a look forward to next week. That's the only way to do it. There's no way we're getting all done. It's the middle of the day.
It's the middle of the day. As long as we you know what? It was 2 hours week 1. We're under 140 if we shut it down here in a minute, and then next week 130. Well, we're gonna hit it. We're
gonna hit it. Well, thanks everyone for joining the Dynasty Evaluation on Fantasy and Frames. You can find all my stuff here. I have a YouTube channel. I have Fantasy and Frames has 100 million stuff going on. So jump on Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel. There's fantasyandframes.com for all their stuff. I'll put my Flexums out today, either today or tomorrow morning. As soon as I get them done, I've been running like a madman all day today. But JT, what's going on with you?
Yeah, man, just check me out on Fantasy and Frames. I'm doing these Dynasty evaluation shows with you. I jumped on 465 last night with Rich. Talked a little Dynasty stock watch up and down. So check that out. If you didn't get a chance, go back and listen to that one. Me and Jorge did Shoot the Gap last night, a little IDP talk. We had a bunch of questions on there, start sit questions. So if you have any questions on IDP, definitely take a look at that one. And then I've got the Stew with JT Bruce show I host is up and flying right now. We've got college football betting show with my buddy Benny D on Tuesday nights. And then usually I do it either Wednesday or Thursday. And later today, I've got the NFL betting show coming up. So I'll knock that one out for all you guys looking for kind of the bets and the odds for this weekend. I'll go through a lot of that here today on Fantasy and Frames. So,
all right. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the Dynasty Evaluation Show. My work schedule just kind of gets in the way, or else we'd be a little more consistent on this show. But hey, man, it's nice to get it out once a week. Nice for the questions. Thanks for James and Joe for jumping in here. Anybody else, feel free to hit me up on the DMs. We can answer trade, sit, starts questions, any of that stuff, waiver wire stuff. We'll bring it up on the show. Let me know. All right, talk to you later.